Hey, I want to welcome you to the Inside the Racetrack podcast. My name is Pastor Kevin Robertson, and this is kind of a ending to these Inside the Racetracks because we've been doing them since March. We've been averaging 2 interviews per week. So we decided that we're going to just let season 1 kind of end and then start season 2 for next fall. And so if you're interested in taking Racetrack, we're kind of sending a feeler out right now to see if anyone wants to do it via Zoom. Now, I know it's not the same, but we're in a pandemic. And so if you're interested, just send us a quick email. Or you just wait until the fall when everything kind of gets back to normal, if there is such a normal, and then we'll have Racetrack face to face. But today I want to introduce you to somebody who's been part of our church for a while and is on our church board and has strong opinions on a lot of things. Maria, welcome to the Inside the Racetrack.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Now tell us first of all, where do you work? What do you do for a living and stuff like that?
You sure I should say that? I work at JP Morgan Chase Bank,
Okay.
and I am the branch manager of the downtown Culver City office.
Okay. And you've been working at banks for a long time now.
Oh my goodness, yes, since 1987.
Okay, so you can say I've seen a lot of good and I've seen a lot of craziness.
Oh yes, and all the changes that comes with it.
Oh, I could imagine. Yes. Even with the technology, if you think about it, from
yes.
86, I would assume you're handwriting a lot more stuff than you were then.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I want you guys to notice on this podcast is sometimes when you're a pastor and you get to know somebody and you realize, oh my goodness, they're super passionate about something,
yes,
to the point of just being angry about certain situations. Yes. So before I tell you what it is with Maria, we're going to figure it out. So I'm going to go back, way back in her childhood, and we'll talk about, and I don't even know her childhood. And then when you're listening to this, then you can go, oh, I'm figuring this out now. I'm going to figure this out. So tell me about brothers and sisters, mom and dad, all that stuff, where you grew up.
Yes. So I come from a family of 7. We would have been a family of 8, but my mom lost her firstborn.
Okay.
So I'm the middle child.
Is that because of a miscarriage or just?
I want to say it was a miscarriage.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm the middle child. There's 3 older, 3 younger.
Okay.
There's 5 boys and just my sister and I. Patty.
Right. Okay,
yes.
Patty. And that's why you guys are so close, because you're the only girls.
Yes, we're the only 2. Mercy. Yes.
Okay.
So I come from a very strict Hispanic family.
Okay.
Now
being Hispanic, what does that look like? A very strict Hispanic family.
Oh my goodness. It was where the girls had to do everything. Okay. So we did the cooking, the cleaning, the boys would, we have to prep them for adulthood, they go to school, the focus was more on the boys. And the girls were like, okay, yeah, they're going to school, but when they come home, they need to do this, they need to do that. So it was the old school, you need to make sure that all of your chores are done. Homework for the girls came last.
Wow.
So yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because when I was in high school, my first girlfriend was Hispanic. Yeah. And she had a brother, and back then I was amazed at, not the double standard, but man, the boys got away with everything.
Yes.
But it was dead set rules that the daughter, and it drove me nuts.
Yes.
But she even said, just back in high school, this is the culture.
Oh, we pleaded to go to the high school dance or a high school football game, homecoming. The boys, where are you going? Oh, we're going to the homecoming dance, or the game. Right. We had to plead, please let me go. My brother's gonna be there. Nope. Even if your brother's gonna be there, nope. I would honestly say that I didn't get to go to a high school dance or the game probably till junior, senior.
Right.
Yes.
Great. That's nuts. And
Yeah.
and then would you say that did you live like some of us live in fear of our parents? Did you
Yes.
live in fear of your parents when you were younger?
Oh
Uh,
my goodness, yes. I would feel safe when I would see the police. You know, it's like when someone would say to you that don't do that because, you know, when you would get it at home or you would get it right there on the spot.
right.
You know, if they said, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to go hang out with your friends. When you get out of school, you need to come home right away.
Okay.
If you were late and there was no excuses to why you were late, you
Okay.
had to prepare for the consequences.
All right.
You know, a lot of the times I know that I purposely joined sports so that I could not come home and be busy and say, okay, I'm going to do my chores and I'm going to do my homework. But
Right.
I was, you know, at practice, basketball, volleyball,
Right.
and so forth. Yes.
So the
So,
thing is, as you grew up, obviously there was a lot of tension
oh,
in the
yes.
house. You know,
Yes.
did you get any moments that you could figure out, like, I just moments of peace? Maybe it was just with you and your sister, or it was just tense all
You
growing up.
know, I can honestly say that when I felt the most peace or where I can collect my thoughts
Hmm.
would be when I was away from home and mostly in sports.
Okay.
I felt safe at school,
All right.
you know. That's where I felt the best. When I came home, I had, you know, you never knew what you were going to walk into,
All right.
you know, because it was tense. It was tense. I had two parents that should never have been married. And I say that in the sense that they were young when my mom got married, and they came from the era that anything the husband said went,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So,
So here's hint number one, because there's many times that I talk to you, and we're in a kind of a prayer moment and a counseling moment, and you're very passionate about,
yes,
look, do not be staying together for the kids because you're
yes,
going to screw. How do you say that? Could This is where you could almost see vessels in your head
yes,
coming
yes,
out, and very passionate about.
yes.
div-
So, for me, growing up, it was a very hostile, toxic
Mhm.
environment. And I was a child and I
Right.
had no voice.
Right.
So, when I would witness things happening between my parents, you know, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, I could not intervene because I would get it 10 times worse.
Okay.
So, the number one question I would ask my mother is like, why did you stay? I want the answers. I regress to that child and I'm saying, why didn't you take me out of this environment?
Hmm.
And at first, I would hear them when they would talk, the, you know, adult conversation, my mom, my aunts, and so forth. And I would hear this term, and till this day, it infuriates me. And it's, oh, we have to stay together for the children.
Okay.
What about the children, right?
Right.
And people think that because you're young, you don't understand or you forget.
Hmm.
I get infuriated because as they're staying together for the supposed children,
Right.
the children are the ones living in hell.
Right.
When I tell you in hell, you're witnessing, you can't say anything. You're crying. You can't stop it. You can't prevent it. You're just watching it. You try to hide because
Right.
you don't want to see it, but you hear it. So you plug your ears and you can still hear it.
Hmm.
Um, I think, for me personally, I'm speaking from my experience, I think it messes with the children's mind a lot.
Hmm.
I think it creates a lot of insecurities. I think it creates a lot of questions as far as, you know, you're a young girl growing up. There's no way that this is what love looks like,
Right. Right.
you know? So honestly, when I was young and I was a child, I would always say, I'm never going to get married. This is not what I want to live, experience as a mother or as a wife. I don't want to come home to this,
Right.
you know? So
Because it
when
was almost like this is normal for you. This is
I
like.
knew I knew when I would see my friends at school or I would see their parents and they were nurturing and they're supporting them at the sports, you know, because my
Right.
parents never went to one sports game that I played.
Oh, really?
You know, I got MVP for basketball when I was a freshman.
Oh,
The only one that showed up was my brother. And that was because he went to pick me up from the award ceremony. But my parents never went to a game. They learned, oh, that's my daughter. Go, you're gonna make it. Absolutely not. So
And it's
yeah,
interesting because if you think about that, how long ago? That was probably in the early 80s, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I
So,
graduated 1986 high
okay.
school.
Okay, I graduated in 81, so I'm not that much older than you. So,
Yes,
so the thing is, even as a child, and I think a lot of parents need to remember this,
yes,
like when they're too busy working and their son or daughter says, "Hey, can you go to my game?"
yes,
And they go, "Yes," or "No, I'm too busy." That
yes.
has a huge impact on a
It
teenager.
does. It does. But in another looking at it back now, I'm almost happy they didn't go because what, are they gonna start arguing on the bleachers? You know what I mean? It's like, oh my Lord, it's like, do I want them at the game? Or, it's like,
Yeah,
help me, Lord,
like a catch-22.
Yeah. So it was that type of environment. I found my safety keeping busy at school.
Okay. So how did you ever meet Martin?
Oh, my poor husband. I met Martin
The one,
after.
the Maria that said, "I'm never going to get married. Forget it."
Yes, yes. Marriage was not something I was looking for. When I met Martin, I can honestly tell you that I said, I'm never going to date a guy anymore.
Mhm.
I had what you might want to call a fatal attraction. My brothers had to get involved
Oh,
and
really?
they had to tell the guy to stop calling me. My brother had to fight off one of my exes because he would show up at work unannounced.
Okay.
So my brother, I had older brothers. I have
Right.
five, mind you. So my older one would show up and protect me and defend me.
Okay.
And when I met Martin, I said, I met him through some friends. I was like, I don't want to date anybody. I don't care if I'm alone for the rest of my life. This is it. So, we would go out. There was a good group of like 10 to 15 that we would hang out.
Mhm.
And, we would go to the club, we would dance, and I would tell my girlfriend, I would say, let's walk around. I don't want them to think we're with them. We're not with them. So I didn't mind. I was like, take my friend, we go to the dance floor.
Right.
So when I met Lauren, I was like, it was, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Just didn't want to have anything to do with anything. But slowly but surely, we started to to know each other a little bit better.
Mhm.
And he asked his friend if he could ask me out. And me, like, wait a minute, whoa, why would you ask him if you could ask me out? Like, so.
No, I'm asking the same question.
And so because I didn't know at that time that his friend kind of liked me, but
Oh,
I
okay.
told you I
Oh, I
was
get it
done. I
now.
wasn't gonna
Okay.
see anybody.
Yeah.
I was done. I didn't care. So slowly but surely, we started dating. We started to get to know each other. Um, and then I got pregnant with my precious son,
Okay.
and I was scared. And I was scared in so many ways because when I was younger, and I think I've told you this before, they
Okay.
kept telling me that once I was 18, I was an adult.
All right.
That it wasn't like your parents could come and say, oh no, that's my daughter,
Mm.
she's my child, I'm going to speak for her. That
Right.
you're an adult, so anything that happened when you were 18, you own it, whatever it may be.
Right.
When I was 21, they would tell me that you're 21, you're legal, so if you're not really looking for your career, you're not going to make it, so you need to
Okay.
start looking for something to have stability.
Mhm.
So when I was 25, that was when, I became pregnant with my son. I was scared because all of these things were going through my mind,
Right.
as far as the way I was raised. And I wanted nothing but divine protection over my son.
Mhm.
And mind you, what I witnessed growing up. So my brother talked to me about, Maria, you're going to have a child. What are you and Martin thinking about? It was my older brother who started talking to me about that. And I said, yes, brother, yes. But in the back of my mind, I kept saying, yes, I love Martin, but I would never want to get married with him because I'm having a child. And
Mhm.
then do the same thing and say, oh, it's because of the children,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then live
Right.
that same hell. So, Martin and I were going back and forth, and it was me who kind of was scared to get married because of what I had seen.
Did
And
Martin want to get married right away? Were
my
you the one
husband
that?
asked me to get married, and
Okay,
I
you were
said,
kind of pushing it away.
yeah. And even I got to tell you, we got married in Vegas.
Okay.
And I honestly have to tell you that the whole drive, it must have driven him insane. I was trying to talk him out of getting married
Oh, really?
because I was so scared of getting married. And again, it all had to do with my experience.
Were
And
you
then,
okay? Wait, were you asking him like as saying, "Do you really know me?" or stuff?
no, I
Were you
was
trying to get
saying,
him to do it?
I kept saying to him, it's not too late to back out.
Okay.
And then we'd get close and I go, I want you to know that it's not too late to back out. Like, we're not even there yet.
Yeah. But
And then
you didn't want to back out, did you?
I was torn. I
Because you
was
could have
torn.
backed out.
I was really scared. I
Right.
was
Okay.
really, really scared. I did want to do the right thing for my child. I did love my husband, but I didn't want this to be the reason
Right.
why we were getting
Was
married,
this is after Anthony was born or during
Oh
the
no, this was
pregnancy?
before.
Okay, during
This
the
was before
pregnancy.
he was born. So I was scared. And then finally he just stopped and he says, "You keep asking me that. What do you take me for? I wouldn't be asking you if I didn't want to marry you. Is it you that doesn't want to get married? If you don't want to get married, just say so." And I was like, "Well, I'm just saying for you, because
Right.
mine is 3 years younger than me. And
Uh-huh.
then him being Hispanic and he also comes from a strict mother, I didn't want him to say, it's her. She talked my son. He said,
Yeah.
but I was really, really scared. And
Mm.
God is good. He knows what he does and why he does it. And we got married. And I got to tell you, both he and I, when we were at the altar and she married us, we
Mhm.
both cried.
Oh, really?
I cried because I cried so many emotions. I cried fear. I cried neglect. I didn't know what the future was going to be like.
Uh-huh.
But we did it. And you know what? This past year in 19, we celebrated. We're now 26 years married.
Wow.
Is that crazy for the one that wasn't going to get married?
26 years married. Now,
Yeah.
I don't want to get crazy here, but we just interviewed your husband a couple of
Yes.
weeks ago. So, can you explain what you and the Lakers have in common?
He calls us the three P's. So, I, after Anthony, I honest to God was scared. Like I told you, I was scared because
Right,
I didn't want to make any mistakes. I wanted to do things right. I wanted to make sure that I was there for my children. I wanted to make sure that I offered all of my attention to them the way I didn't have it. So I want to tell me your first this, your first that. I'm here. I'm all ears. I'm here for you, my child. So I thought I wasn't going to have any more children.
right.
So, when I went to the doctor, she would give me an injection, she would give me a pill, she gave me everything, and I would get pregnant. And, and then came Bianca, and then came Elcita, and I was like, I can't have any more. You need to understand. I cannot have any more children. And I love my children. I love them to death.
Right,
But for me personally, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be the parent that I never had.
right. That's a good point because sometimes our parents can be incredible teachers of what not to be.
Yes, yes.
And just go, okay, I'm going to do everything opposite of my parents.
Yes,
So,
yes. And
oh,
I kept saying in my mind, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to be there for you. And so help you God if someone touches you or hurts you in the wrong way.
right. And
You
the thing is, it's from it because your daughter Elsa works for us.
know?
I haven't seen Elsa in months, but she still
Yeah,
works for us
yeah,
because of the pandemic. And
yes.
so they are really good kids, and I know they're all
Thank
adults
you.
now,
Yes.
and they're all strong because I don't know what you implanted in Elsa and Bianca, um, but I noticed that it's basically they're strong-willed women
Yes.
and I don't see them submitting under
Yes.
the
Yes.
authority that you did.
Yes. Oh no, no. I want them to be strong. I want them to be wise,
Right,
not to be afraid to speak up when you see something wrong.
right,
To speak up, say something.
right,
And I always tell them, silence is a killer. If
right.
you see something that's not right, speak up.
Yeah,
Whether at work or home, speak up.
right,
And that's something I wasn't allowed to do. So when I got my voice, meaning when I was like, uh, I would say when I moved out, I was like 21.
Right.
And I found my voice. I found my own, and I would speak up. I would speak up, whether it was at work, whether it was at home. If I would see something happening on the street, I'd speak up. I'd call the authorities immediately. I would rather err on the side of caution than
Right.
say, you know what, I heard something going wrong, but they'll work it out.
Yeah. And
Because that's
good. So I wanted to kind of go in a direction because you keep you throughout this interview. It seems like your brother was such an influence on you guys, on you.
yes, he was the father I didn't have. I couldn't go to my biological father and say, hey, I need help. This is
Right.
what's happening. If I needed protection at school, it was my older brother.
Right.
Yes.
And so he's the one that, in a sense, kind of balanced you out. The
Yes.
authority figure.
Yes, he did.
Now tell us about your brother. Tell us what happened.
My younger brother that passed away.
Yeah.
My younger brother that passed away, like I told you, we should not have been in that environment that we were in.
Okay.
We were children that were constantly being physically abused, tormented, verbally, and so forth. And I can honestly tell you is because they had all these kids and they didn't know how to be parents.
Right.
So how do you come a group of 7 or so forth, right? So my brother would run away from home.
Okay.
And he did what we all wanted to do.
Right.
But he did it. And when he came home, it would be 10 times worse. Like I tell you, it was the belt, it was whatever was around, right? So my brother started getting into substance abuse, kind of joined a gang because he needed a place to stay.
Right.
Long story short, he ended up going to jail, to prison, right? When he came home, he went to Mexico.
Right.
And he was lost. He was lost to the world. He would communicate with us. He wouldn't communicate with us. But before he fell away, we were kind of coming to know the Lord. So he knew somewhat about the Lord. But that didn't take the hell that we were living away from home, right? We came to know the Lord because of my oldest brother, not really because of my parents.
Okay.
So when he came home, he worked with Calvary in Ensenada. It was called Calvary, and they would go and minister to the homeless, to people that were lost to drugs, and so forth. And my brother, when he found the Lord again, he had such a passion for the Lord. He would shout it from the mountaintop. You could be walking by and he'd say, hey, brother, are you tired of living your life? Or he would go to the slums where nobody would go. He would go to the places, like if I were to think here where people are sometimes scared to go, I would say South Central, Watts, East Los Angeles. He would go to those places.
Yeah.
He would go where people would say, no, you don't want to get there because something's going to happen. He did that. Right. And so, when I would talk to him, he would talk to me about the Lord. Of course, we would always cry and we would talk about our youth, things that would happen to us and where we've come, Right. And sadly, I lost my brother. He was having heart surgery, and we lost him during surgery. They stopped because they said he had gone into critical condition. And at 5 a.m, we got a call from the pastor and told us that my brother had passed away.
Now, how does that affect your faith, or did it? I mean,
you know what? I love the Lord, and I thank him, because when you go through things that you witness, that you see, that you feel, that no child should live through, and then you get lost to the world because you're trying to numb these experiences, right? You get angry, you get hurt, you get upset because you think these were the children that should have been protected. Right. Why did they have to go through that? So when he was lost to the world because of the numbing, wanting to numb, wanting to get the visions or what we saw or witnessed out of our mind, and he was saved for, I want to say, 3 to 4 years. And I think that I thank my Lord and I say, thank you for saving my brother and allowing him 3 to 4 great years before you took him to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So he got to see both extremes,
Right.
lost in the world, drugs, trying to numb all the awful experiences, to coming to know the Lord, being full of fire, celebrating life, witnessing to everybody and anyone, and trying to go into where he knew that people were doing drugs and bringing them out, and just to have him to feel that love, that peace, and to even go up and preach in Ensenada. I'm glad the Lord gave him those years to enjoy knowing him, what a true Abba Father is like,
Right.
right? Because we didn't have that. But he got to experience it the last 4 years of his life in the most beautiful, beautiful way that he wanted to share it with everybody.
Right. So,
So
the thing is
it's
for you.
hurtful.
So for you, it's basically it's perspective.
Yes.
It's just,
At first you're hurt. I mean, of course, I'm hurt now. I mean,
right.
I always say I would trade like 10 years of my life to spend a whole day with my brother,
Right.
right? But God knows what he does and why he does it,
Right.
and I'm glad he knew the Lord. He was lost. We prayed. We never gave up hope, but we also knew in our heart of hearts why he was lost.
Well, okay, let me go just a little deeper here too, because I've always been curious with somebody that's had a difficult childhood you had, with watching what your brother, I'm sure, was your anger towards your parents because
Yes. Yes.
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, or was it towards God too?
When I was younger, and I think I've said this in our Grace Track and a couple of the groups that I've joined, when I was a child, I was afraid to go to the Catholic Church because all they would do is condemn you. Oh my God, if you don't forgive your sins, you're going to burn in hell. If you don't do this, you're going to burn in hell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was young and I was going to a Catholic school. I went all through, 12th grade in a Catholic school, and everybody talks about the love of God and so forth. And I was trying to find the love of God. And I'm thinking, if my parents are Catholic, why is there no love of God?
Mm.
Why, right? So when I was younger, I would question God. What did I do as a child to deserve to live in this environment?
Right.
Right. And then the anger came with my parents because they're the ones that are supposed to protect me.
Right.
They're supposed to protect their child,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones hurting us. And so I would say, God, where are you? And then my parents, you guys are Catholic. Where does all this hatred and this evil come from?
Right.
Right. So I kind of questioned God growing up, and I have to tell you that I went through a period where I doubted there was a God because of the things that were happening in
Oh
our
yeah, I
lives,
totally get it.
and I questioned. I'm like, Lord, like, where are you? Even when I was coming to know the Lord, I would do everything that I could to find that love, that happiness, that joy that everybody talked about. Because again, we were always looking for that peace, looking for that what do you call it, agape love, that that everybody talked about, right? But I did question the Lord, and for a long time i I left the church. I
Yeah.
left the church because I'm thinking, here it goes again, and you let me down again.
Yeah.
Is this real? Where are you in this awful world? Where are you? So when I got pregnant with Anthony, I knew, believe it or not, there was a lot of things that I would say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, that this is that things would happen in my life. I would say, thank you, Jesus. I would always go back to him, and I would always thank them. When Anthony was born, I prayed. I have not stopped praying for my children since they have been born.
Yeah.
Because I know that I cannot be with them 24/7, and I know what's out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I always pray for my children. That way I will hope someone was praying for protection for me.
Right.
See,
Yeah.
so I said, even when Martin and I got married, I said, I need to find a church, but I never pushed Martin about going to church.
Right.
I knew that I had to get my children to grow up knowing the Lord, to
Right.
know that there's love, that to know that you can always come home and be safe, but you have to know the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So after we were married, although I knew that something was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like here I am, I'm married and I have my children, but there's a little hole in my heart.
Right.
What is missing, you know? And so I was trying to find a church. I went to Calvary. I went to um, the Nazarene. I went to the Church of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how when you walk in and it feels empty, you feel empty. You know, there's a quote that Robin Gibbons said, and he says, "You can be in a room with 100 people and still feel so alone."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt. I felt empty. And I knew that my children needed to come to know the Lord. So when they were going to Trinity Lutheran School,
Mm-hmm.
I started to go to church on Sunday because I wanted to instill that faith in them. I wanted to make sure that they were aware of the Lord. So I was going to Trinity Lutheran, but there was something still missing, tugging at my heart, like, no, Maria, you need to, you need to bring these kids to the Lord. Something kept tugging at me. And so, we demolished this house when my parents couldn't keep up with the payments and so forth, right? So Martin and I took over this house and we demolished it, I want to say 2005.
Mm-hmm.
2006, when we moved back in, we kept driving on Culver Boulevard. And I would see this little church on the corner. And I was still driving to Hawthorne to Trinity Lutheran. And I said, I'm going to go check out this little church on the corner. Because, you see it, but, it's like God's trying to veer. I would look at the little announcements that you would have, like where you have no judgment, only love.
Yeah.
I would try to look and I would keep driving. And I said to the kids, guys, we're going to go to church. It starts at this time. When we walk in, you don't veer away from me. You stay close to me. You sit next to me. And when I walked in, yeah, there was a little, I don't know what you guys want to call it, a festival or something where they had games
Okay.
and all this good stuff. I walked in and just the way everybody was greeting us.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was my first day there. So I'm like, you still sit with me? You did it. And you started to preach. And just the way you were preaching with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It was surreal. It was honesty. And, there's those that preach fear, that, oh, you got to come to church, you're gonna have, and there's those that are well balanced and are not gonna say, well, come to the Lord, all your problems will be gone, give to the offering, and you've
I
seen
wish
them
that
all.
was true.
I know, right? Me being on the board, I know. So it attracted me because you were speaking truth and you were speaking to the here and now, and you don't embellish it and you don't sugarcoat it. And I tell you that even till now, I quote you at work, I quote you when people are speaking and they're trying to say, well, why is this happening, right? You're being honest and you don't lie. And when I say that is, you talk about one of the examples that you always say is minimize the pleasure, maximize the consequences. That's you being honest. Like if you're tempted,
Right.
temptation is out there, but you're in control of what's going to be the outcome.
Right.
So if you're like, oh, well, and they're like, oh, wow, my life is falling apart, I lost my family, you maximize, the pleasure, minimize the consequences.
No,
Right?
that thing has kept me on the straight and narrow.
Yes.
I always tell people this. I go, I've been in the ministry for 37 years.
Yes.
And if I had an affair,
yes,
that they'll look back on my ministry and they will forget the 37 years. And they go, oh, that's a pastor that had the affair.
Yes.
That's how I would be remembered the rest of my life.
Yes.
So when I say minimize the pleasure, maximize,
yes.
The consequences, I mean, that is maximized at its max.
Yes. Yes.
So absolutely. So you got into Grace Track,
yes.
and the thing is, obviously there was anger towards the parents, and all this
Yes.
stuff, and so how did your experience with Grace Track go? I should ask you this: aha moments. Did you have an aha moment that you just go,
Wow, that happened like every time I read a chapter. It's like, it was amazing. And I'll tell you why. Because all of these things were happening to us when we were young.
mm-hmm.
Somehow, as children, because the adults don't explain it to you and the adults don't say, oh, well, it was our fault, honey, it had nothing to do with you.
Right.
No one says that, right? Everybody wants to say that they were right in what they did. But with Grace Track, I think the one thing that I had a lot of aha moments as a child and as a young adult, you try to blame yourself for the things that you didn't do,
right,
and for the things that you could have done,
mm-hmm.
For when I didn't speak up, right? So that was my child. With Grace Track, we give grace to everybody, but the number one person we're the hardest with is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it showed me to show grace and forgive myself for
right.
feeling guilty for not speaking up as a child. I was a child.
Right.
It allows you to have a second pair of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when I question, where are you, God?
Mm-hmm.
God was right along with me. I just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And in small ways, you kind of look back and you say, okay, I can see that. Right. And with Grace Track, I have to tell you that if you don't want to put the work into it, you're not going to get the results out of it. You get deep and it's painful. Point. In our group, I have an authentic group. We had an amazing group, and everybody has a story, and you would see us crying. You would see us laughing. You build those deep relationships because I had a horrid childhood growing up, and someone else had one similar. You can kind of relate, or you can relate with everybody that's in the group, and that's only because it was a safe zone, and you were able to be honest as to where you were at, what happened to you, where you're at now, and how do we grow from it. Right. So the grace, I think I learned a lot of grace, even to pause for myself sometimes where I'm at work, at home, or okay, Maria, give him a little grace. I don't know his story. I don't know her story. It could have been like mine. It could have been worse, So, but it's, when we talk about grace, I think when you use it, it's kind of loose, but when you apply it to the Lord's way, it is loving. It doesn't hurt. It's kind. It embraces. It doesn't accuse. It's deep. It's from the heart. It's grace. It doesn't keep track. It's great.
Oh, absolutely right. And as we wrap it up, I want to ask you. I want to make a statement that you're the one that came up with the idea of
love more,
no
judge less.
No judgment, only love. And I get the grief.
Oh, sorry, sir.
but you're the one who came up with it. It was during prayer time, and
yes.
And so so that's our mantra. And so the last question I want to ask you is: let's say a parent is listening to this and they're wondering, "Oh my goodness, are my kids going to end up like Maria?" And so, as a parent, what advice would you give?
I would honestly say that whatever you're going through right now, whether it's with your partner, your spouse, your husband, things that are happening to you do not only impact you. It's a domino effect. It impacts the rest of the family. Ask your children, why are you crying? Why are you so afraid? What scares you? Is it every time I raise my voice? Is it uncertainty? Is it that you don't know where we're going to end up next? Because I think this is what messes up kids. Had anybody asked me, are you okay? Is everything okay? I'll be like, oh God, no, help me. For the love of God, help me. No, things aren't all right, And I think that as parents, loving our children, we have to ask those hard questions. And when whatever answer we get, don't get defensive. This is someone telling you how they feel.
Right.
It come from a place of help, not a place of I'm offended. I'm a place of I'm being attacked. We're going through feelings that scare us, and believe it or not, if we don't do this enough, we're shaping our youth.
Yeah.
The way they think, the way they act, it's based on what they experience in life.
No,
so I would say, please ask your children, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? When I would come home, when I would pick up the kids and I would say, hey, how was school? Oh, school is school. I was looking for, hey, how was school? Did someone pick on you? How was the lesson? You
Right,
know, was everything okay? I want to make sure you were okay,
right.
that it's okay to tell me, you know, I got scared, there was someone being bullied, or I got scared, or, you know, be honest with your friends. Talk to your kids. Please talk to your kids.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for listening to our watching our podcast.
Yeah.
This is the last one of Inside the Grace Track, so we're going to take a hiatus on this podcast. But get ready. I think I'm going to start a new podcast with different people that are outside the Grace Track, and I'm going to title it "Perspective," and
Hmm.
how our perspective can change when we listen to other people's circumstances and story. God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you virtually on Sunday. God bless. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.